Hello. An intro to most of my instructional videos here is going to be just some basic things to keep in mind. One, I record my videos and post them to YouTube so you can use closed captioning. I know I tend to talk a little fast, so hopefully this will help. You can see down at the bottom of the screen here what you can see in English what I'm saying. The other thing you can do with closed captioning is if you want to see it in another language, let's say you can read Ukrainian or you can read Spanish or Filipino. Oftentimes YouTube will allow you to do closed captioning in another language, so that can be helpful there. That's a resource there. The other thing as you're watching these is pause. Don't be afraid to pause the video. Write down what you're doing or write down your question and then restart it again. That's something that's a little bit different than in class because I know I do tend to talk fast. All right, as you're watching these videos, I want you to break it into 3 parts. Part number 1 is to watch that video all the way through, get an idea of where you're going. What are the expectations? What is it you're going to be doing? If possible, what's the end product? What's the end result you're putting there? What is it you need to have done? Second is to put together a notes, and that's where you're taking these on paper and pencil. I know a lot of you like to take notes digitally or want to take notes digitally. It's not the same. I really encourage you do it as your handwriting. It helps with making that connection between the brain and what's going on. And as you're taking notes, take notes on things instructions that I give you. Write out those instructions. If I give you hints or tips, write those down. If there's important measurement information or details, write those down. Also, questions, write down your questions. Words you don't understand, directions that don't make sense, things I don't demonstrate. Those are great. Write those off I would encourage you, write those off to the side in the margin. And then the next step, third time you watch the video, is go back, watch for things, do I answer the questions you have? Look for the answers to those questions. Because any questions that are left afterwards, that's when you can email me at my email address that hopefully will pop up here if I do it right. Or you can save them for when we're in class. All right, so hopefully these tips and instructions are going to be helpful, and I look forward to helping and supporting you. So let's go ahead and get started. And as I always say, let's go forth and do some great things. Hey, welcome back. This is going to be week 3 of Tinkercad, our Tinkercad lessons, and today we're going to talk about combining shapes and adjusting the workplane to make it easier to add shapes in kind of a stacked formation. Before we do that though, I do want to get in and review some things that we've talked about a little bit. So first off, the biggest thing is sharing a link. I'm getting a lot of you that are just coming up here where my mouse is, highlighting this and going copy and pasting that into Google Classroom. The problem is if it ends with the word edit down here and has this kind of a look to it, I can't get into that account. That's a link. This is a link to your actual account. What I need you to do is come over here to this little circle with a half circle and a plus in it. Click on that, come down to generate new link, copy link, and then use that link to take it to the Google Classroom. And I will actually go into a Google Classroom and show you what that looks like here. So I'm going to go down to this, here we go, and go to classwork, and go to good activity, and go to view assignments, and I'm just going to go doink and doink, get rid of those, and I'm going to go add and create, link, control paste, add link, and then because then what happens is once that link is done uploading, then if I just go here and click on it, it actually takes me into, you'll see how the link looks a lot different than the one into your account. It's got some extra coding in here that allows me to work kind of with you and get into your account as a guest, not full access, but gets in there as a guest to give you and share that work with you for temporary, like it says, I think it was, what was it, 2 weeks, and then the link dies. Okay, so that's
kind of the first review activity. All right, next thing that I'm going to go to is, let me find Tinkercad. Oh, I got out of Tinkercad here. Huh. Okay, let's go back to Tinkercad here. The next thing I want to review is, I want to review combining shapes. So I'm going to go into this one I opened up earlier. I'm going to go and tinker this. And when you're combining shapes, so we'll just say we get a box and let's go a sphere here. So when you're combining shapes, depending on your view, it may look like these are together, but if you rotate it around and maybe zoom in a little bit, you'll see that they're not actually together. Okay, so when you combine a shape, I'm talking about pushing it into and making sure that there's no space between each hole or each shape. Okay, so that is, I've seen with some of your keychains, I've seen some of you where you've got it, and depending on the view, it looks really close. So it may look like it's spot on there. Let's see if I can get that in there, and it just looks, and from a distance, it may look like, like right here, it looks like, top down view, it looks good. But then when we rotate it like this and we get in there, you can see there's just that millimeter distance between the two. So it's going to be important that you're rotating around and make sure that you're pushing those shapes together and getting that contact between them. Because if we were to print these out, if there's a little tiny bit of space, the printer doesn't know, oh, those should go together. So I really encourage you, right click and rotate, use the views here to look at the different views that you can, and zoom in and zoom out, or use your scroll wheel to zoom in and zoom out to really take a look at those. All right, also in putting shapes together, let me go back home here, using the cone, the black cone here, to pick up your shape and move it across and then lower it down, that is helpful as well as getting that in there if you want to put things on top, and especially in this next lesson that we're going to do. Okay, so before we jump into, I'm going to go back here to the kind of gallery page that I have here for my shapes and my things that I've been working on. You can see I've got some demo things here. The last thing I want to review is getting to the lessons and some of the demo things that I do. Okay. You're going to start these up here are very important. I always go to, when I say in the directions or the procedure, go to the Learn tab. This is where I'm talking about, right here. Okay. There are some other ones. We don't have any classes set up. We don't have a gallery. This gallery just takes you to a different gallery of different projects that people have worked on. And I would encourage you to go ahead and explore some of those and take a look at them and see what they've done see what is possible with Tinkercad. But when I say go to the Learn tab, I'm really talking about this tab right here. And then from here, we're going to jump into lessons. This is where I get all of the lessons and some of the demo lessons that I have. And if you go see all lessons, then you can go through, that's how you would get to all of those. We're not going to do all of these, trust me. We're going to do a few more, and then a couple of ones that aren't on Tinkercad itself. So get ready for those. All right, in part 2, I'll show you which one we're going to create. There's only going to be one shape to make this week, unless you want to get out and tinker on your own and do a little extension activity, which I do encourage you to do, but I want to kind of slow it down a little bit and just do one object. So in part 2, we'll talk about the object that you're going to create. Okay, welcome to part 2. So we're going to talk about the object we're going to create. You'll see I'm back here at my gallery. I will try to get in the habit of always starting at the gallery, and you'll see a list of all your shapes here. So we're going to start by going to Learn and Lessons. And this one, we're not going to go see more lessons. We're going to do the chess pawn. And I like this one because it really does a great job. I'm going to restart the project because I've already done this. I did this as a demo myself just to see if it was really
really a good idea. And it did what I wanted it to do. But with the chess pawn, it's really good. What I like about it is it's good at working at those combining shapes and adding and seeing what you can do, kind of the power of shapes and different shapes meshed together. And it also introduces a concept of changing the work plane or adjusting where the work plane is at. And this is going to be helpful. This is something new to me. It's helpful in stacking those shapes. So we're going to go and click on Start. It is a little, it's not tough, it's not hard, but it is one of those things where I think, having me demo it for you, kind of going through these instructions can be helpful. You can certainly go through you can certainly stop the video after, or watch the video through once and kind of see where we're going, and you don't have to watch the video and follow along with me unless you want to. All right, so this is the object we're going to be making. The first step is to take a cylinder and drag it out onto the plane. Now, with a lot of these, they show you the basics of where, they give you that basic idea of where this shape should go on your work plane. It doesn't have to be exact. If you wanted it out here, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. If you wanted it out there, that's fine. This just gives you an idea of where things should be. Okay, so we've got that. The next part is to make it smaller. So take a height. And I know there's been some confusion on heights and so on and so forth. So what I like to do is let you know that you've got your work plane here. Think of this as a coordinate plane where you have your x-axis going along here. You have your y-axis going along here. And then if I rotate this up, you'll see you have a z-axis going up. So when they say height, that's what they're meaning, is they're meaning adjusting this part here. So, one of the things you can do is you can click on there and you can adjust it yourself. I always like, as I've shown you before, I like just typing in the number and hitting enter. It's a lot easier. Okay, moving right along. So, drag a work plane to the top of the cylinder. This is the new thing that I said, that I've learned about. Okay, where it says shortcut W. This is what's called a keyboard shortcut. So if you hit the letter W, you'll see that you'll get this little thing here, this little square here, and I'll see if I can rotate it right there where it follows my mouse. And we're going to take it approximately and line it up right there, and that gives you a new work plane to start from. So that's, again, I'll do that again for you. Just W, bring it out, line it up. There you go. You've got the new work plane there. And it doesn't show much right now, but okay, there we go. So there's your new work plane. So you'll see when I did that, I hit W and I'm not lining it up perfectly with that square, because if I do, it doesn't adjust the work plane. But if I get it just a little off center there, now I've got a new work plane. This is going to be helpful. You've still got the original work plane down here, but now you've got, it's like you're taking the table, and instead of having, you've got your table and you've got your shape here. Let's see here, here's my shape that I want. And there's table and shape. Now I've taken the work plane, instead of having it here, I've now put it up here. Okay? So that's going to be helpful here in a second as you move on to the next one. So the next one here, drag the cone shape to the top of the cylinder, and the shape should land on the work plane. So what it does is it makes it easier. If we just put it right there, it pops it right on top of there. We don't have to lift it or anything like that. So I'm going to actually go back a couple of steps and show you what I'm talking about. If we hadn't adjusted that work plane, okay, and we dragged the cone out here, it's going to default to sit on that work plane, and we'd have to raise it up and adjust it just the way we want. So I'm going to, no, it's not going to let me jump ahead here. So I'm going to go W and get my work plane. Let's see here. It's going to be helpful if I go back a couple steps there. So W, put it there, delete that, get my cone, and drag it out and set it on top of my cylinder. And there you'll see I have, whoops, I went ahead too many. So there we go. Now I've got it. Now you see I don't quite have it lined up. That's okay. It does get kind of tricky to get it exact, but again, don't worry about getting it exact. All right, so the next step is we got to adjust its height. And we want to scale it to, or we want to adjust it to 11 millimeters. So I'm going to click on that, click on the height box, I'm going to say 11 millimeters. Okay, so now I've got kind of a flattened shape there. And let's go on to number 7. All right, so now we're going to get a sphere, and we're going to drag that sphere over. And now the nice thing is the sphere should go on to where we want it because it's sitting on this work plane. And now it's going to say adjust the diameter of the sphere. With the diameter, again, we're going across, so you've got to adjust not only this here, but you've also got to adjust that form there. So I'm going to click on that, and it says 18, and I'm going to come down here and get this one at 18. There, now I've got both of those at 18, and I want to squish it to a height, so I want to adjust the height of 5. There we go. So now I've got, and again, you can adjust it a little bit there to get it lined up, but don't worry too much because we'll be using the alignment tool to make sure everything's aligned nice and neat. Okay, and there we go. So moving right along. The next one, now we got to get another cone and drag that cone in there and move it in there. And now we're going to scale it. We're going to increase the height to 28. And we want to adjust the diameter again, so 14 and 14, and adjust it into there, and then move it to the target area. Lift the cone off the work plane. Lift the cone 3 millimeters off the work plane. So now we're going to do that. And now the reason they're not having us adjust the work plane is we don't have a flat surface to put it on. If we tried to adjust the work plane and say, okay, you'll see we can't get it on top of that cone there. It's going for the surface. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape to get out of that. That's why they're not having us adjust that work plane. So we're going to lift this up 1, 2, 3. So you can see there's your height measurement. It's showing you, oh, height up off the plane. And we're going to adjust it into there, and see, I got it pretty close. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We got to drag another cone in there. So you see, we're using a lot of cones to make this pond. And we're going to go, oh, we got to adjust the diameter and the height. So we're going to go 12, 12, and the height of 19. Okay. Rotate the cone. Now this is another thing that's going to be, it's in these handles here are your rotators. Now you could rotate it around. You could rotate it like that. I'm going to bring this back to 0 here. Let's just go Control Z. Or you can click on it, then click in there and put 180, 189, 180, and there it is upside down. And then we're going to move it. We're going to adjust it up and move it into, drag it in there, and you'll see that I am just a little tiny bit off. There we go, close enough. Okay, perfect, close enough for right now. And then now drag a work plane to the top of the cone, which is really the bottom of the cone we just flipped. Now we've got this here, but let's see here. So we're going to go W, and okay, let's see if we can get it in there. Okay, there we are. So now it is letting us do, we've got a flat space to work with there. That's why it is important. Like I said, it was hard. There was no flat space. It was working off of that cone there, but here we had a flat space to put it in there. Okay, so we've got that, got our new work plane, and you can see there we are above that. We got to get another sphere, and we're going to bring our sphere in there, and there we are. We'll get it aligned just as best as we can, and we're going to go here, and now it's going to be a sphere 8 by 8 by 8. So we're going to go Joinken, and we're going to go 8, 8, and 8. And drag it into there and get it close. Okay. And holding shift to keep over scale the shape in all directions. Okay, so that one I did it the hard way. So if I went to do there, and I did shift, and I did down to 8, so there you could do it that way as well. Again, I like typing in the numbers. To me, it just gives a much cleaner look to it. So I'm going to bring that in there just a little tiny bit. There we go. All right, and moving right along. So now I'm going to drag a work plane to the original work plane location. Place the work plane anywhere except on the shape to rest it on. So again, to get the work plane back down, so what they're saying is, see this is your original work plane. That's where we want it. So we're just going to go W and click it. Okay. So let me go Control Z and show you. So I just hit my keyboard shortcut of W, and I just clicked anywhere outside of the shape. Now you'll see this is kind of cattywampus, or it doesn't, not everything's lined up the way we want it. That's okay. So we're gonna select all the shapes. There we go. And we're gonna click the Align button, and we're gonna align them centered there and centered there. You don't want to center it here because everything will get all squished into the center there, and that may look cool, but you'll notice we're missing that here. So I'm going to go Control Z. There we go. Looks like I've got it. Okay, and let's go Bammo, and let's see here. Select all the shapes. Click the. Now we got to group them. Okay. Turns it into all one color. Now you may see here you've got sizing or adjusting. You may need to make some adjustments there, and I would recommend you do that. So I'm going to go Control Z to do that, and I'm going to adjust that shape up a little bit and bring it up just a hair, and then I'm going to use my alignment tool. Align, align, align. There we go. And then I'm going to group. There I have what looks like a nice pawn piece, chess pawn piece. And click next, and I'm done. So this is the link that I'm going to have you come up here to your share button, generate a new link, copy that link, and then turn it in. And again, you'll have about 2 weeks, which I should be able to get into those. And you have your pawn piece to share. All requirement for this week is to do the pawn. As an extension of this, I would encourage you to use some of the skills we've learned here today to create your other pawn pieces. And I'll give you a list, or your other chess pieces, the other pieces of a chessboard. I will give you in the list, as an extension activity, I'll give you a list of the different pieces that are part of chess, or maybe you want to make a checkers. Maybe you want to make a checker pieces. I would do something more than just a flattened cylinder. Maybe make pieces that can fit together. I encourage you to do some research, look around, see what you can find. All right, that's been making the pawn. I can't wait to see what some of you come up with, and see what some of your other chess pieces are that you make. All right, good luck, and go forth and do great things.